She had always loved her quiet home, a modest little place nestled at the edge of town. But lately, something had changed. It started with soft noises, tiny scrapes and scuttles coming from right above her bedroom ceiling. At first, she told herself it was just rats or squirrels. Old houses had their quirks, after all. But those sounds didn't stop. Night after night, the scratching grew louder, sharper, more deliberate. One evening, after a long day, she climbed into the attic to check for leaks. Instead, she found footprints in the dust, fresh, unmistakably human. A small, worn backpack lay tucked behind some old boxes. Her heart pounded. Someone had been up there. Someone was living in her attic. Days passed, and unease wrapped tighter around her. She double-checked the locks, installed new ones, but the feeling of being watched gnawed at her. Then came the stormy night, thunder rolling like distant drums, rain lashing the windows. Alone, she lay in bed, every creak and groan amplified by the tempest outside. Suddenly, a floorboard creaked above. Then the attic door, slow, deliberate, opening. Panic seized her as footsteps began descending the narrow stairs. She scrambled to the closet, heart hammering in her throat. Clutching her phone, she pressed the emergency button, whispering so softly the dispatcher almost couldn't hear her. 911, what's your emergency? A calm voice asked. There's someone in my house. Upstairs. In the attic, she whispered, barely breathing. The footsteps drew closer, slow and cautious. The intruder moved through the house, searching, his heavy boots thudding against the wooden floors. She could hear him breathing, muffled but steady. She fought to keep silent, her eyes fixed on the closet door, praying it wouldn't open. Help is on the way. Stay calm, the dispatcher reassured, every word a lifeline in the dark. Minutes stretched like hours. The intruder paused outside the closet, his shadow falling over the doorframe. Then, just as suddenly, footsteps retreated back toward the stairs. Relief surged, but she knew the danger wasn't over. Suddenly, flashing red and blue lights flooded the windows. The police had arrived. Her whisper ended, but the terror stayed. That night, she realized the true meaning of fear, how close it can live, just above your head. He wore a delivery uniform, but he wasn't from any company I ordered from. She had been expecting a package that day, a birthday gift from a friend, arriving sometime in the afternoon. When the doorbell rang, she barely glanced through the peephole. A man in a delivery uniform stood there, holding a small box. But something was off. His eyes didn't match the friendly smile he forced. His movements were too slow, deliberate. She hesitated but opened the door just enough to take the package. That's when two more men appeared behind him, masked, silent, and heavy with menace. Before she could react, they pushed their way inside. Heart pounding, she dropped the box and stumbled backward. The men grabbed her arms, tying her wrists with rough duct tape. Her husband was away on a business trip, she was home alone with her teenage daughter. The intruders moved quickly, methodically ransacking the house, searching for valuables. Her daughter, frightened and trembling, managed to slip into her bedroom, quietly locking the door behind her. Her phone was on the bedside table. Hands shaking, she grabbed it and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? The calm dispatcher's voice came through the speaker. There are men in our house, the daughter whispered, barely audible over her own ragged breathing. They tied up my mom and are looking for something. The dispatcher kept her calm, instructing her to stay quiet and hidden. The intruder's footsteps echoed closer. Her daughter pressed the phone tighter against her ear, clutching the device like a lifeline. She could hear her mom struggling in the other room. Suddenly, the sound of sirens pierced the air. The men panicked, grabbing what they could and fleeing through the back door. Police officers stormed in moments later, securing the house and checking on the family. The daughter's whispered 911 call had saved them. That night, a package delivery had become a nightmare, and a fight for survival. I was locked in my own basement, and they didn't know I had a phone. It was supposed to be a normal afternoon. The sun streamed through the windows of the quiet house, untouched and calm. But for the teenage boy who lived there, everything changed in a blink. He heard the crash before he saw the intruders, masked men breaking through the front door. Panic shot through his veins as the strangers swept inside. He ran toward the basement, the only place he could think to hide. The heavy basement door slammed shut behind him, the bolts sliding into place. Locked in, he was safe, at least for now. But the basement was dark and cramped. Dust settled on old boxes and forgotten furniture. The boy's breath came fast, every sound amplified in the silence. He pulled his phone from his pocket, turning on the flashlight app. His fingers trembled as he dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? The calm, professional voice asked. There are intruders in my house, he whispered, voice barely audible. I'm trapped in the basement. They don't know I have a phone. Downstairs, the intruders moved through the house methodically. Their heavy footsteps echoed just above the basement ceiling, getting closer and closer. The boy pressed himself against the wall, holding his breath, eyes fixed on the door. The dispatcher's calm voice kept him steady. Stay quiet. Help is on the way. Minutes dragged on, each second a lifetime. The intruders searched, frustrated by the empty rooms, their footsteps moving away from the basement door. Suddenly, flashing lights filled the windows. The police had arrived. The basement door unlocked, and relief washed over him, but the terror of those moments would never leave. I called 911 while holding a crying baby, and the footsteps were getting closer. It was supposed to be just a regular evening. The babysitter, a college student, sat quietly in the living room with two sleeping children. The house was still except for the soft hum of the baby monitor. Suddenly, the front door creaked open. Her heart skipped a beat. She froze, eyes darting toward the hallway. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoed through the house. She grabbed the baby from the crib, rocking her gently to keep her calm. The other child stirred but didn't wake. She hurried into the nursery and locked the door behind her, clutching the baby tightly. The babysitter's hands trembled as she pulled out her phone and hit 911. 911, what's your emergency? The calm voice answered. There's someone in the house, she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady while soothing the baby's cries. The footsteps drew nearer, the intruder searching for them room by room. Her breath caught. She held the phone close, barely daring to breathe. Help is on the way. Stay quiet, the dispatcher reassured. The intruder's shadow loomed under the nursery door. His hand reached for the knob. Suddenly, the door rattled but didn't open. Minutes later, flashing lights flooded the windows. The police had arrived just in time. Her whispered 911 call had saved the night. He was arrested last year. I never thought he'd return, but I was wrong. She thought the nightmare was over. After testifying against her violent stalker, she entered witness protection, changing her life and identity. The safe house was supposed to be secure, a place where fear couldn't reach her. But one cold night, that illusion shattered. A faint noise stirred her from sleep, a creak, almost imperceptible. Her heart raced. The alarm was silent, but something was wrong. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, whispering with barely controlled panic, "He found me." Outside, footsteps crunched softly on the gravel driveway. The man she feared most was back, his eyes burning with rage. The dispatcher's voice was steady. "Help is on the way. Stay quiet." She locked every door and window, hiding in the shadows, the phone pressed tight against her ear. The intruder tried the locks, rattling them with violent force. Her breath hitched as he moved through the house. But then, distant sirens pierced the night. Police cars screeched into the driveway. The man fled, disappearing into the darkness. That night, the past clawed back, but survival meant never letting go of hope.